Every so often, a virus with a really scary sounding name pops up in the headlines. And let's be honest, in a post-pandemic world, a name like Nipah, well, it gets your attention. It definitely sparks a little bit of concern. So what exactly is this virus? And how worried should we actually be? Okay, let's just get right to the heart of it. This number, 75%. That's the estimated case fatality rate for the Nipah virus. And just to put that into perspective, that makes it one of the absolute deadliest viruses we know of that can infect humans.
So that begs a huge question, right? With a fatality rate that high, why isn't this the lead story everywhere? Why aren't alarm bells ringing about a new global catastrophe? Well, the answer is actually fascinating, and it's all hidden in the very nature of the virus itself.
To get to that answer, first, we've got to understand exactly what it is we're dealing with.
Okay, so according to the World Health Organization, Nipah is what's known as a zoonotic virus. That's just a fancy way of saying it jumps from animals to people. And once it's in a person, it can cause some really devastating illnesses. We're talking severe inflammation of the brain, which is called encephalitis, and also some pretty serious respiratory problems. And Nipah isn't new, not by a long shot. It was first found way back in 1998 in Malaysia during an outbreak that killed over 100 people. Since then, it's kind of popped up sporadically, almost every year in certain parts of Bangladesh and India. The recent cases in West Bengal are what put it back on our radar, reminding us that even though this threat is localized, it's definitely persistent. So how can a virus be so incredibly deadly but still manage to stay so local? The answer is all in its journey, how it travels from its natural home into ours. You see, it all comes down to its transmission chain. The virus just hangs out, totally harmlessly, in fruit bats. The problems start when those bats contaminate things people might eat or drink, like raw date palm sap. Now, it can spread from person to person, but, and this is the most important part, it is incredibly bad at it. It requires really close contact with the bodily fluids of someone who is already very, very sick. This is the complete opposite of a virus that spreads through the air from people who feel totally fine. And that one fact, that's the key to why this isn't a pandemic. So if it's so terrible at spreading between people, why is it so good at killing? For that, we need to zoom in. I mean, way, way in, down to the microscopic level, to see how this thing attacks once it gets inside your body. So when a virus gets into one of your cells, your body has this amazing alarm system. And a really key part of that system is a protein called STAT1. Its whole job is to race to the cell's control center, the nucleus, and sound the alarm to trigger all these powerful antiviral defenses.
But Nipah, oh, it is just deviously clever. It launches this two-front attack to shut that alarm down. First, some of its viral proteins act like guards in the main part of the cell, and they literally grab the STAT1 alarm protein and stop it from ever reaching the control center. Then, for any alarms that somehow manage to slip past, another set of viral proteins are already waiting inside the control center to trap them. It's this brilliant pincer move that completely neutralizes our first line of defense.
So how do you fight a virus that's that smart? Well, you have to get even smarter. To disarm it, scientists first need to see it. And using these incredibly powerful cryo-electron microscopes, they're creating these detailed 3D maps of the virus's core machinery. Basically, the engine it uses to copy itself. The goal is simple. Find a weak spot, a little chink in the armor that a new drug can attack. Okay, so how does this microscopic blueprint actually translate into real-world tools that can fight an outbreak? One of the biggest game changers has been in diagnostics. You see, the old standard test, it's accurate, but it's slow, and it needs a specialized lab. That's a huge problem in a rural outbreak. But now, compare that to these new technologies that can give you a result in under an hour, right there in a local clinic or out in the field. That kind of speed, that's the difference between containing an outbreak and watching it spread. But what about the big guns, vaccines and treatments? Well, the tough news is that right now there are no approved specific therapies for Nipah. Treatment is really all about intensive supportive care. But, and this is a big but, the research is moving, and it's moving fast. The WHO has marked Nipah as a priority, which helps speed things up. And there are some really promising candidates out there, including an experimental antibody treatment and, probably most exciting, a vaccine from the University of Oxford that's already in phase 2 clinical trials. So, with all of that in mind, how the virus behaves and the scientific defenses we're building, let's circle all the way back to our original question.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's the direct answer from the experts. Professor Linfa Wang of the Global Virus Network puts it really plainly. Overall, the risk of regional or global spread of Nipah virus is very low. So let's just break down exactly why it stays contained. It's really a combination of things. First, and most important, it's just not good at spreading between people. Second, when people get infected, they get very sick very fast, so they aren't out traveling or interacting with lots of people. This makes things like contact tracing and isolation super effective. And finally, the outbreaks are often predictable. They're linked to things like seasonal events, which lets health authorities get prepared and respond really quickly.
So, Nipah is a truly terrifying virus. There's no doubt about it. But it's a threat that we understand and, so far, have been able to contain. It really serves as this powerful reminder of the constant dance between us and emerging diseases. Because the tools we're building to fight Nipah, the rapid diagnostics, the vaccine platforms, the global surveillance networks, those are the very same tools that will protect us from the next unknown threat that will inevitably emerge.